I want to welcome you back to BLACKSITE, and tonight we're going to take a good look at the Tulsa Race Massacre, the destruction of Black Wall Street. I want many, especially young people, to reflect on this time. There was a community in America called Black Wall Street, in which black people had everything they wanted. They had banks. They had every kind of businesses you can think of. They had their own movie theaters. They were thriving better than white people in Tulsa, Oklahoma. But as in many other communities, a phony crime of a young black man accosting a white woman. And this led to one of the worst race riots in American history. Joe Biden will be commemorating today this massacre. But I will say after this video, I don't want any more commemorations, museums, or anything. What I want is cash payments. So I want you to take a quick look at this video from Tulsa, Oklahoma by their newscast. And afterwards, we'll talk about more of the issues.
A century ago tonight, a thriving and affluent black community stood tall, spanning 35 city blocks in Tulsa's Greenwood district. There were hotels, banks, cafes, 24 grocery stores, and 31 restaurants. More than 9,000 people called it home.
But 100 years ago tomorrow, as the sun started to rise, the entire community would be razed, bombed, and burned to the ground by an angry white mob.
Tonight, we are remembering the horrific acts of May 31st, 1921.
News 4's Bria Berry reports from Tulsa from one of the few physical structures that remained after the massacre.
The historic Vernon AME Church is the only physical structure that survived. And today, hundreds came to commemorate one of the deadliest racial massacres in our nation's history. And the commemoration events continue tomorrow. President Biden will be in Tulsa to pay his respects. In Tulsa, Bria Berry, Oklahoma's News 4.
Now that Joe Biden is coming to Tulsa, Oklahoma to commemorate the 100th anniversary of the Tulsa race riots, there's only one question that needs to be answered. When will we receive reparations? This massacre is a case and study of why we should receive reparations. A community of 9,000 people who built their own paradise in a racist country. This community of people who did not bother white people, who did not bother the state of Oklahoma, where they had no rights to vote. All they did was pull up their own bootstraps and make a community that their children could be proud of, with banks, restaurants, businesses, supermarkets. But those evil white people who lived across town could not stand that these black folks were living better than them. They had better housing, better cars. So they made up a crime that a young black man accosted a white woman. And that's how the riots began. The riots were so bad that they were hunting down black families. And if you think that the state of Oklahoma and the United States government don't owe us any money, they had an airplane drop an incendiary bomb on the community, which helped burn down that community. So don't give me a speech. Don't give me a hug. Don't tell me to vote for you. Send me cash payments. Because let me tell you something. No other group would put up with this nonsense. The Japanese were paid $20,000 for being in internment camps for a few years. The Jewish people were paid reparations by the German government, and they're still receiving reparations from the German government because of the Holocaust. The Native Americans just received $32.6 billion in American Rescue Plan. But what have we received? A civil rights bill, a voting rights bill. But they still haven't apologized for slavery and Jim Crow. They still refuse to give us cash payments. And I don't want to hear nothing about free tuition, free rent. What I want to hear about is, when are you going to give us our money? When you going to cut the check, Joe? Because they could pass a reparations bills through the House, pass it through the Senate with Kamala Harris vote, and it could be on Joe Biden's desk. But the Democrat Party don't want to, they don't have the will. All they want to do is say, hey, maybe we'll give you a Harriet Tubman $20 bill when the dollar is worth virtually nothing. We have to stand for something. This is why I respect the Jews so much, because every day they fight to make everyone remember the Holocaust. This was hidden from our children. 99.9% of our children know nothing about the Tulsa race riots. If that we had communities in America that were more than just ghettos, that were more than just trash. But Tulsa was once one of many thriving black communities across this country that were burnt down by these races. One thing about it, these white folks back then, they didn't want us to have nothing. If we weren't dependent on them, they were going to burn it down. So when is we going to get our... We don't need a commission. We don't need people to sit around the table and talk about reparations. We got all the proof in the world. We got slavery, Jim Crow, riots, redlining, whatever else you can think of happened to us in America. So why haven't we received our reparations? We have politicians falling around in Washington worrying about the people at the border, Palestine, and other issues that have nothing to do with the black community. But this should be the #1 issue on the table now that Tulsa has come around. It's up to us to make sure that this government pay us what they owe us. And they owe us approximately between 11 and 16 trillion dollars. So when are they going to cut the check and put down the down payments? I want to thank you for listening to BLACKSITE. I hope you subscribe to this channel, smash that like button, share this video.